GamingBolt presents 15 things hardcore Resident Evil players hate about Resident Evil 6. No matter what you think about Resident Evil 6, you have to admit it was a pretty divisive game. A lot of old school Resident Evil fans hated it for how much it changed the series, so let's take a look at some of those changes. Too action focused. The biggest, loudest complaint from most people was that Resident Evil 6 focused way too much on action. It was an over-the-top third-person shooter first, and a horror game third or possibly even fourth. There were big car chases, helicopters crashing down everywhere, and so many ridiculous melee and QuickTime events, the whole game felt like a Michael Bay film rather than a Resident Evil game. New voice actors. Capcom continually changes the actors for its most iconic characters: Chris Redfield, Ada Wong, Leon Kennedy, and more. Once again, Capcom changed out several voice actors. Leon Kennedy was voiced by Matthew Mercer, replaced Paul Mercier from Resident Evil 4. Roger Craig Smith and Courtney Taylor played Redfield and Wong respectively, something they've been doing for a while but still relatively new to the series. Co-op gameplay. Another thing that accentuated the action feel of the games was the focus on co-op gameplay. Capcom encouraged you to play the game with somebody, which inherently makes the game less scary and more action-oriented. But even when you're playing solo, you're always accompanied by an AI companion, running around and shooting or stabbing enemies for you. If you're a fan of old school Resident Evil games, especially 4, you know how annoying this was. Fans expressed their displeasure with it in Resident Evil 5, yet it was brought back anyways. Chris's campaign. There were 4 campaigns in Resident Evil 6 featuring Chris Redfield, Leon Kennedy, Ada Wong, and Jake, a new character. Each campaign tried something different. Leon felt the closest to classic Resident Evil with the emphasis on tight spaces and moments that attempted to be scary, and Jake had more experimental gameplay. But Chris's campaign was the one jam-packed with those action scenes and scripted events. This is the chapter where you'll find soldiers jumping from rooftop to rooftop and rescuing hostages. This is the section most people point to and say, this is more like Call of Duty than Resident Evil. It's too serious. Resident Evil 4 was always a bit like Metal Gear Solid, with codec screens and interesting enemies being among the many references. It was serious at times, sure, but it also knew when to be funny and when to lighten the mood. It didn't take itself too seriously because with that story, and of course zombies, how could it? That changed with Resident Evil 6 though. Perhaps in an effort to further appease those action game fans, Capcom stripped the trademark humor from the series and made the game more serious, more po-faced, and more intense. Characters never so much as flashed a smile or cracked a joke. It was all murder, despair, and misery all the time. It's not scary. That humor also goes a long way in making horror more effective. In Resident Evil 6, because it's always so serious, you're constantly on the edge, expecting something to jump out at you at any moment. There are no funny moments to break the tension and knock you off your guard. On top of that, the unrelenting action scenes, co-op partner, and QuickTime events constantly ruin the pacing. There's no time to be scared because you're too busy gunning down waves of zombies or quickly tapping a button to knock a zombie off of you. Not enough brain-twisting puzzles. Resident Evil isn't exactly Portal, but it's been known to have a few puzzles to break up the action and the horror. That wasn't really the case in Resident Evil 6. Sure, there were some moments that felt like puzzles, but they were more busy work than anything else. It lost its focus. Resident Evil 6 is stuffed to the gills with content, and normally that'd be a good thing, but the problem in Resident Evil 6's case is that there's no unifying theme or focus. There are 4 different campaigns that let you play as one of 2 characters, each with different gameplay mechanics and themes, and each campaign eventually ties itself together in the most convoluted ways possible. Then there's of course the co-op mode tacked on, and it feels like the game is trying to do too many things at once without bothering to make sure it all makes sense or not. No more inventory management. As part of the move to action gameplay, Resident Evil ditched its traditional inventory management system and replaced it. You can now pretty much carry whatever weapons and gear you want anytime you want. There's no need to think about what tools or gear you're needing moving forward or whether or not you need to ditch some ammo for the sake of health. It's all automated now, taking out yet another element of strategy. Where the hell was the merchant? What are you buying? Nothing, not in Resident Evil 6 anyway. The lovable merchant from Resident Evil 4 remains MIA in RE6, and indeed any form of weapon purchasing at all. Instead, you just pick up whatever weapons you can find in the field, again removing a layer of strategy. But even that is shaky at best. This double-edged sword is perfectly demonstrated in Leon's chapter, where at one point you run into a gun shop and cannot buy any of the guns or even pick them up. No weapon upgrades, but a skill system. Much like the lack of buying weapons, there's no way to upgrade your weapons you have. Instead, that system was replaced with a skill system. You'd pick up skill points throughout levels and buy new skills like in an RPG between missions. These skills had minimal impact on gameplay and were a huge letdown. Not only could you not buy your own weapons, but you couldn't customize them either. Too many QuickTime events. Resident Evil 6 is loaded with QuickTime events. They're about every 5 to 10 steps and they're anger-inducing. None of them are particularly difficult, but they're so numerous it destroys any sense of flow the gameplay has. If an enemy grabs onto you, QTE. If you want to open a door, QTE. Several melee attacks require a timed button press, as do the numerous scripted events, like Leon having to break out of a cockpit. Awful vehicle sections. For some reason, Resident Evil 6 has vehicle sections. Two particularly awful ones are the motorcycle in Jake's campaign and the car chase in Chris's. In Chris's campaign, you jump in the back of a Jeep and have to shoot an enemy vehicles coming near you while your AI partner drives. The AI in this game is terrible, so your partner is constantly crashing into every obstacle and building in the road, and you can't do much of anything to help. The motorcycle is even worse because you're directly in control of it. You're pretty much just going in a straight line, but you have to constantly veer left and right to avoid obstacles and zombies. The quick shot. What's the quick shot for? The quick shot is exactly what the name implies. You press a button and your character will automatically kill an enemy, stunning them for a second and allowing you to roundhouse kick them or whatever. The thing is that this makes the game insanely easy because you can just spam the quick shot, which is guaranteed hit and stun, run up to the zombie and kill them with one melee hit. Forgettable characters. The characters in Resident Evil 6 are all boring, from the series staples like Chris and Leon to newbies like Jake and Helena. The game also features the series' worst villain, Carla Redames. She hatches some ridiculous scheme to pretend to be Ada Wong and creates, and I'm not kidding, Neo Umbrella. She seems to want to destroy the world, but chastise series mainstay villain Wesker for doing the same thing. Her motivations just don't make any sense, and she's more annoying than intimidating.
And that wraps it up. What are your thoughts about this? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and share it on Twitter and Facebook. And why not consider subscribing? We upload some really cool videos almost every day. Thank you for watching this video, and happy gaming!